Hello everyone, welcome to session 1 of IS Baba's Rapid Revision series for Prelims 2021. So this is the first session of Rapid Revision series for this year. I am Preetham Reddy and in this session I will be dealing 10 topics from polity which are important for Prelims examination 2021. See, I don't want to discuss much about the pandemic situation and strategy for the exam as it is already discussed by our IS Baba's founder. Okay, the video has come exceptionally well and I would suggest you guys to watch that video. If in case you have not watched, the link for the same is attached below in the description. So I want to start this particular session by praying for everyone's health and happiness. So Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu. So let's start the session. So in today's topic, I have picked some of the important acts under company rule and crown rule, and then we have objective resolutions and salient features borrowed from different constitutions and schedules of the constitution. So why these topics? Because these topics are highly important and they are favorite for examiners. So when you see previous year question papers, especially these two acts, okay, from these company rule or the acts under crown rule, in past 10 years we have 7 to 8 questions. Okay, so in 2019 we had Charter Act of 1813, 2018 Government of India Act 1935, and 2017 we had a principle of diarchy, and 2016 we had Montagu-Chelmsford, 2015 again Government of India Act 1919, 2012 again Government of India Act 1919. Okay, so most of these questions are picked from the company rule and crown rule, that is historical background basics. And these chapters or these topics are also important because as an aspirant we should know certain events. So these events, they greatly influence our constitution as well as polity. That's the reason these chapters are very important and favorite for examiners. Okay, so first we'll start with some basic. So here I have given a small timeline. So historical background basics. So we know that 1600 British first came to India as traders. So East India Company, they had purely trading functions during 1600. Okay, second important point what we have to know is 1765 this East India Company, they obtained Diwani rights. So here we have some prelims facts. So who granted this Diwani rights to the East India Company? It was Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. Okay, so Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II, he granted this Diwani rights, that is rights over revenue and civil justice to the East India Company after its victory in the Battle of Buxar, that is 1764. So this Battle of Buxar is again important for prelims. So you people have to know some facts that this Battle of Buxar, it was fought between East India Company forces which were led by Hector Munro and combined armies of Mughal Emperor Shah Alam and Mir Qasim and Sirajuddaula, right, and also Raja Balwant Singh. So all these people, combined forces, they fought against East India Company. But after this Battle of Buxar, so Shah Alam, he granted these Diwani rights to the East India Company. So next what we have to remember is the important acts under the company rule and then important acts under the crown rule. So these are the topics which we will be dealing today. So first topic is Regulating Act of 1773. See, most of you people would have read this first topic, but you might have found it difficult to retain and retrieve information whenever needed. So let's try to revise, and I'll be sharing a small story. So it will act as a trick to retain maximum stuffs from here. Okay, so first is Regulating Act of 1773. So if you see the timeline, 1600 British, that is East India Company, came. So from 1600 till 1773, so this East India Company, they enjoyed full freedom and autonomy, right? But by 1773 what happened? The East India Company, it was in dire financial troubles. So why financial troubles? Because one, there was too much of corruption and bribes in East India Company. Second, they faced competition from other countries. Okay, and also they were facing difficulties to maintain monopoly. So who was the main influencers or shareholders of this East India Company? They were the British people, right? So they were in the British government or British Empire. So they wanted this East India Company to act as a monopoly trading company. So they decided that there is a need to regulate. Okay, so the Regulating Act of 1773, it was the first step taken by British government to control and regulate the affairs of the East India Company. So you have to remember this first point. Second point, first time British government, it recognized the political and administrative functions of the East India Company. And third, British government laid the foundation of central administration in India. So you have to know these 3 points are important under this particular act. So generally questions are coming from features. Okay, so every act has different features, so we have to know those features. Okay, so first feature is, obviously I said, so regulating act was to control and regulate the affairs of the East India Company. So how British government will regulate and control East India Company? By designating Governor of Bengal as Governor General of Bengal. So first time this Regulating Act of 1773, it designated Governor of Bengal as Governor General of Bengal, and he was given executive council, that is 4 members were given as a executive council to assist this Governor General of Bengal. So the Governor General of Bengal, he had executive councils, and also governors of Bombay and Madras, they were made subordinates to this Governor General of Bengal. And obviously these governors did not like someone bossing, right? So they started hating this Governor General. Okay, so remember, they started hating. So who was the first Governor General of Bengal? It was Lord Hating, not Hating, but Lord Hastings. Okay, so remember, instead of Hating, just remember Hastings. So Lord Warren Hastings was the first Governor General, and because of hating and because of these kind of small disputes and fights, they decided that we want to establish Supreme Court. Okay, so this is just a trick to remember. Okay, small story. So Governor of Bengal was made Governor General of Bengal. He was given executive council of members to assist him. Also this Governor of Bombay and Madras, they were made subordinates. Because of that one, there were some jealousy, there were some hatings, there were some disputes. In order to settle all those disputes, they wanted to establish Supreme Court. And finally, we know that Regulating Act, why did they bring? To control and regulate the East India Company. So what they did, they prohibited this East India Company from any private trade and accepting bribes and gifts. Okay, so you have to remember this. And finally, what is the important feature? East India Company's Court of Directors should report all its affairs to the British government. So here what you have to remember, East India Company's Court of Directors, it should report all its affairs. So what kind of affairs? All economic or commercial or political affairs or military or revenue, civil. Okay, all these affairs they had to report that one to British government. So next we have to know Pitt's India Act of 1784. So why the name Pitt's? You have to know. So the then Prime Minister of British was William Pitt. That's the reason it's called Pitt India Act 1784. So what are the important features under this Pitt's India Act? We should know. So first one is, so commercial and political function of East India Company was divided. So why commercial and political functions was divided? Because this Court of Directors, they were not reporting properly. That's the reason this Pitt's India Act thought, okay, we'll divide commercial and political functions of East India Company. So Court of Directors will control commercial and will create a new body, that is Board of Control, to control political functions. So we had now 2 important division, that is one is COD and second one is BOC. That's the reason we call this as system of double government. So simple question can come that the system of double government was started under which particular act. So don't get confused with the diarchy, that is dual government, but here it is system of double government where COD plus BOC. So COD to control commercial, BOC that is Board of Control to control political functions. And this Pitt's India Act, it empowered Board of Control to supervise, direct all operations, that is civil and military or revenue of the British possessions in India. So here the word British possessions is used. So you have to remember that for the first time British government used this term called British possession. So British government was given the supreme control over company's affairs and its administration in India during this Pitt's India Act. So next important topic is Charter Acts. So Charter Acts is important because the final step towards centralization in British India, it was made by the Charter Acts. So we know that the first step towards centralization started during Regulation Act 1773, but the final step towards centralization in British India, it was made by Charter Act. So first we will deal with Charter Act of 1833 and then we will deal with Charter Act of 1853. So these two are important when it comes to Lakshmikant polity. Okay, so here Governor General of Bengal, he was made Governor General of India. So this Governor General of India was vested with all the civil and military powers. So he was made powerful and he was given exclusive legislative powers for the entire British India. So you have to remember that Charter Act 1833, it is very important because it was for the first time this act created a government of India having authority over the entire territorial area which was possessed by the British India. So next, it is important to note that this Charter Act of 1833 it ended all the activities of East India Company as a commercial body. So now it ended all the activities of East India Company as a commercial body, but you have to remember it did not end East India Company's rule. And right now EIC, that is East India Company, it was left as purely administrative body. So next important point is this Charter Act of 1833, it attempted to introduce a system of open competition for selection of civil servants including Indians. However, this attempt failed. So you have to know, first attempt towards civil service examinations which were open to Indians, so it was done during this particular Charter Act of 1833. However, this attempt was failed because Court of Directors of East India Company did not agree. So next, Charter Act 1853. So we know that from 1833 there was Governor General of India who was vested with exclusive legislative powers as well as civil and military powers. So now this Governor General of India, he alone could not do all the work, right? That's why this Charter Act of 1853 decided to divide legislative and executive functions of the Governor General's Council. So for the first time the Governor General's Council was separated. Okay, so the act created a separate legislative council, that is Governor General's Legislative Council, and it was called Indian Central Legislative Council. So this Indian Central Legislative Council, it acted as a mini parliament. So because of this Indian Legislative Council, you have to know legislation for the first time, it was treated as a special function of the government and which required some special process and special machinery. So the important point what you have to know is local representation was allowed in India. So Indians were allowed in the Indian Central Legislative Council. This particular Charter Act of 1853, it introduced an open competition system of selection and recruitment of civil servants which were open to Indians also. So earlier Charter Act of 1833 it attempted, but that attempt was failed. However, this Charter Act of 1853, now the civil service recruitment it was open to Indians also. And finally you have to know this act extended the company's rule and allowed it to retain the possession of Indian territories on the trust for the British Crown. Okay, so it extended the company rule and it also allowed to retain the possession. However, it did not specify any particular period unlike the previous charters. So this time there was clear indication that the company's rule could be terminated at any time the parliament liked. So you have to remember these points. So from all these events what we can understand is, we can see how British government made steady progress to control East India Company affairs and how the government laid foundation for full centralization starting from Regulation Act 1773 till Charter Act 1853. So next important thing what we have to know is Revolt of 1857. Anyway, we will be dealing those things in history and you have to revise those. So you have to know, due to this mutiny or revolt of 1857, the British decided to enact an act of good government. So this Act of Good Government of India, or we also call it as Good Government of India Act 1858. So this act was brought. So the first important feature of this Government of India Act 1858 or Act of Good Government of India is it abolished the East India Company and company rule was ended and the Crown rule was started. So the designation, the Governor General of India, was changed to Viceroy of India. So you have to know, under Government of India Act 1858, the designation of Governor General of India was changed to Viceroy of India, and it was Lord Canning who was the first Viceroy. So how to remember this Lord Canning as the first Viceroy of India? I had made a small story or trick. So when India's governance, it was transferred from company rule to Crown rule, Her Majesty was thinking who can be the best suitable candidate for Viceroy of India. Then a person came forward telling, I can, dear Majesty, because my name starts with can, I am Canning, so I can. Okay, so the Majesty decides, okay, Lord Canning, you can go become the Viceroy of India. Okay, it's just a trick to remember. So you have to know this particular Government of India Act 1858, it ended the system of double government, that is, it abolished both COD and BOC. So next you have to remember, this act created new office called Secretary of State for India, and also it created a 15-member Council of India to assist the Secretary of State. So this Government of India Act, that is 1858, it was largely confined to the improvement of the administrative machinery by which the Indian government was to be supervised and controlled in England. And you have to know that it did not alter in any substantial way the system of government that prevailed in India. Okay, so next topic is Indian Councils Act, very important. So why this name council? Okay, so you have to understand, Charter Act of 1853, it had created a separate legislative council called Indian Central Legislative Council, right? But after 1857 revolt, British government felt that there is a necessity for seeking cooperation of Indians in the administration of the country. So in order to get some cooperation of Indians, they enacted three important acts, that is Indian Council Act. So the first act was Indian Council Act of 1861, second one was Indian Act of 1892, and third one Indian Act of 1909. So these are Council Act because it is always, the features are associated with council. Okay, so first you have to know this act, that is Indian Council Act, it made a beginning of representative institutions because it wanted cooperation of Indians in the administrations. So it associated Indians with the law making process, you have to remember. So Viceroy, he should nominate some Indians as non-official members to his expanded legislative council. So this act provided that Viceroy of India, he should nominate some Indians as non-officials. Second one, so the process of decentralization was initiated. So now whatever the centralizing tendency which was started from Regulating Act 1773, so right now the process of decentralization was initiated and reversing the centralizing tendency. So what is decentralization? So the devolution of powers, that is legislative powers, it were restored to Bombay and Madras Presidency. Okay, and also this particular Indian Council Act of 1861, it provided for establishment of new legislative councils, especially for Bengal, Northwestern Frontier Province and Punjab. So you have to know two important things. One is the decentralization, or I can call it legislative devolution. And second one is the establishment of new councils in Bengal, Northwestern Frontier Province and Punjab. And next important feature is portfolio system was introduced. So Indian Council Act 1861, it transformed the Viceroy of India's Executive Council into a cabinet which was run on the portfolio system. So 6 members in the Executive Council, they took charge of separate departments. So portfolio system was started under this Indian Council Act 1861, one of the important feature. And this act empowered the Viceroy to make ordinance during an emergency, which is very important topic again. Okay, so the ordinance making power first time was initiated during Indian Council Act of 1861. So next important act is Indian Council Act of 1892. So we know that under Indian Council Act of 1861, they wanted representative institution, that is they wanted cooperations of Indians in the legislative process. So in this Indian Council Act of 1892, the number of Indian non-official members, especially in both central and provincial legislative councils, they were increased. So right now the numbers of Indian non-official members, they were increased, but still official majority were non-Indians. So you have to remember. And second, functions of legislative councils were also increased. So they allowed discussion of budget. Also they allowed some addressing questions to the executive, but they could not cross question. Okay, so they allowed some questions to the executive. They also allowed discussing the budget. And next important point what we have to know is nomination were made on the recommendations. So certain bodies like governors or provinces, universities, zamindars, Okay, they could now recommend Indians for the nomination of non-official members. So nomination, this concept of nomination started from Indian Council Act of 1892, which you have to know. And finally, the act made a limited and indirect provision for the use of election, but the word election was not used. So there was some type of limited and indirect provision for the use of election to fill up non-official seats both at central and provincial legislative council, but the word election was not used in this particular act. So next important act is Indian Council Act of 1909. So it is also called as Morley-Minto reforms, because that time Lord Morley was a Secretary of State and Lord Minto was Viceroy. Okay, so how to remember? 909 can be remembered as MOM. So it is Morley and it is Minto. So Morley-Minto reforms. So we'll see what are the important features. So again here first important point is it increased the size of Legislative Council both at central and provincial level. So even Indian Council Act of 1892, it increased the number. So number of additional Indian non-official members were increased both at central and provincial legislative. However, you have to know official majority were non-Indians. However, in this Morley-Minto reforms or Indian Council Act of 1909, official majority was maintained at the center. However, provincial councils were allowed to have Indian non-official majority. So first time the provincial councils, so they could have non-official majority, so which was a good sign. Second one, so same as earlier Indian Council Act, that is 1892, that is the functions of Legislative Council were increased. So now members were allowed to ask supplementary questions. So earlier it was just they could address questions to the executive, but here they could ask supplementary questions and also they could move resolutions on the budget and so on. Okay, so third important feature is first time association of Indians with the Executive Council of the Viceroy and Governor. So this is very important feature. So earlier there were association or cooperation of Indians when it comes to the legislative process and Legislative Council, but first time under the Morley-Minto reforms or Indian Council Act of 1909, association of Indians with the Executive Council. Next, introduction of system of communal representation for Muslims. Okay, this is also very important. So the concept of separate electorate, it started from this Indian Council of 1909. That's the reason this Lord Minto, who was the Viceroy, he came to be known as the father of communal electorate. Okay, so these are the features which you have to remember. So next important act is Government of India Act 1919, very important. So Government of India Act 1919 was based on that August Declaration of 1917, or it was based on the Montagu reforms. So we call this Government of India Act 1990 as Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. Okay, so here the main objective was gradual introduction of responsible government. So you have to know the main objective was gradual introduction of responsible government. So first important feature what we have to remember under Government of India Act 1919 was, so demarcation of separate central and provincial subjects were made, and also transferred and reserved subjects were made. So provincial subjects were further divided into two parts, that is transferred and reserved subjects. So transferred subjects were to be administered by the governor with the aid of ministers responsible to the Legislative Council, whereas reserved subjects, they were to be administered by the governor and his Executive Council without being responsible to the Legislative Council. So I told you, right, there is a gradual introduction of responsible government. So on certain subjects, okay, the governor should act on the aid of ministers who were responsible to the Legislative Council. So next very important feature of this Government of India Act 1919 is diarchy or double rule. So we know that system of double government was associated with Pitt's India. However, here diarchy or double rule, it is associated with Government of India Act 1919. Okay, so diarchy means nothing but the dual scheme of governance. Okay, so this is one of the important feature. The next important feature is first time bicameralism and direct elections only at center. So it was based on limited franchise. So first time there was provision of direct elections in the country, and only at the center it was used, and first time bicameralism was made. So this point is very important because recently in news you might have read Didi, right? West Bengal, it wants upper house back. So there were many articles and many controversies regarding how states can get their upper house. Okay, and you have to know right now in India, upper house we have it in Bihar, UP, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and which one? Karnataka. So bicameralism right now it is in these, and right now Didi wants upper house back. Okay. So next important feature is 3 of 6 members of Viceroy's Executive Council should be Indian. So they made it mandatory that 3 of 6 members of the Viceroy's Executive Council should be Indian. So gradual introduction of responsible government. So finally you have to know this particular act, it extended communal representation or separate electorate to 6 Indian Christians, Anglo-Indians and Europeans. So earlier there was this communal representation only for Muslims, but this 1919 Government of India Act 1919, so here the communal representation or separate electorate, it was extended to other classes also, like Sikh, Indian Christians, Anglo-Indians, Europeans, etc. So apart from this, there are some more features which you have to remember. So next is this Government of India Act 1919. It created a new office of High Commissioner for India in London. So this act created this new office and it transferred some of the functions which were performed by the Secretary of State for India. Okay. And next it provided for the establishment of a Public Service Commission. So you have to know when was this UPSC was established, or Public Service Commission was established. It was during Government of India Act 1919. That's why this particular act is favorite for the examiner. Okay. So next, first time separated provincial budgets from the central budget. So this is very important. Again, decentralization. Okay. And finally, this act provided for the appointment of a statutory commission to report on the condition of India. So inquiry report after 10 years were to be submitted. So I think we call it Simon Commission report. Okay. Anyway, we'll not go with the history part. We'll just limit ourselves to the polity Lakshmikant. Okay. So finally, we'll go to next Government of India Act, that is 1935. So 1935 is also highly important because many features from this act we can see it in Constitution. Okay. So this act intended to bring complete responsible government. So you have to know Government of India 1919. So the major objective was to introduce responsible government. But finally it was in 1935 the act intended to bring complete responsible government in India. So it provided for establishment of an All India Federation consisting of provinces and princely states as units. However, this federation never came into being as the princely states did not join it. So this is a failure. So next important feature what we have to know is this act divided the powers, that is central list, provincial list and concurrent list, and it kept residual powers to the governor. So this is very important. So recently I think in news the N.K. Singh, so 15th Finance Commissioner, so he had given a statement that there is a need to review the subjects which are under union list, state list and concurrent list. So we have to know that central list, provincial list and concurrent list. So this concept was present in Government of India Act 1935. So next, this act abolished diarchy in the provinces. So you have to know Simon Commission, one of the recommendation of the Simon Commission was to abolish diarchy. So this Government of India Act 1935, it abolished diarchy in the provinces, but it introduced provincial autonomy in its place. And next you have to know this act introduced responsible government in the provinces. That's why I said this act intended to bring complete responsible government, but this was also failed because this operation was only from 1937 to 1939, 2 years. And you have to know this act provided for adoption of diarchy at the center, but this never came into operation. So apart from these features, the other important features are it introduced bicameralism in 6 out of 11 provinces. Okay, and this act extended separate electorates for depressed class. So we know that during 1909 the separate electorate was given to Muslims, and then 1919 it was extended to Sikhs, Indian Christians, Anglo-Indians and Europeans, and now under 1935 this act extended the separate electorate for depressed classes, that is scheduled castes, women and laborers. Finally, you have to know this act abolished the Council of India. So Secretary of State was provided with team of advisors. So finally, establishment of Reserve Bank of India. So they have given this point, but when I went to RBI website, the facts are different. Anyway, the Polity Lakshmikant says the establishment of RBI was under this Government of India Act 1935, and even federal PSC or provincial PCS, that is Public Service Commission, it was also introduced on lines of UPSC and state PCS. And finally, there was establishment of a federal court in 1937. So you have to remember here, don't get confused. Supreme Court was during Regulating Act 1773, whereas federal court during 1937, the feature was under Government of India Act 1935. So next important act is Indian Independence Act of 1947. So this is pretty easy. So this ended the British rule in India and it declared India as an independent and sovereign state. It also provided for the partition of India. It abolished the office of Viceroy and state of Secretary of State. It also empowered the Constituent Assembly, very important. It proclaimed lapse of British paramountcy over the Indian princely states and treaty relations with tribal areas. Finally, this act designated the Governor General of India and the provincial governors as constitutional nominal heads of the state. So here you have to know the Governor General of India and also the provincial governors, they were made to act on the advice of the respective Council of Ministers in all matters. So these are some of the important features and these are the important acts which you have to know. So next important topic is objective resolution. So here you have to know December 1946, Jawaharlal Nehru moved the historic objective resolution in the Constituent Assembly. So you have to note that, and based on this resolution, so this objective resolution, our constitution gave institutional expression to certain fundamental commitments, that is equality, liberty, democracy, sovereignty. So this particular objective resolution, it encapsulated the aspirations and values behind the constitution, and this objective resolution, it also defined the aim of the Constituent Assembly. So this objective resolution is important also because the modified form of this objective resolution is nothing but the present day preamble of the Indian Constitution. So we'll try to know what are the main points under the objective resolution which was passed by Jawaharlal Nehru. Okay. So India is an independent sovereign republic. So second is India shall be a union of erstwhile British Indian territories as well as Indian states and other parts outside British India and Indian states which are willing to be part of the union. Third important point is territories forming the union shall be autonomous units and they exercise all powers and functions of the government and administration, and all powers and authorities of sovereign and independent India and its constitution shall flow from the people. So this is very important, which we can see in the preamble. All people of India shall be guaranteed and secured social, economic and political justice, equality of status and opportunities, and equality before law, and fundamental freedoms of speech, expression, belief, faith, worship, vocation, association and action subject to law and public morality. So again, these philosophy and ideals we can see in our present day constitution. So the minorities, backward and tribal areas, depressed and other backward classes shall be provided adequate safeguards. So next one, the territorial integrity of the republic and its sovereign rights on the land, sea and air shall be maintained according to justice and law of civilized nations. The land would make full and willing contribution to the promotion of world peace and welfare of mankind. So these are some of the important points under the objective resolution which you have to remember. But what is the main thing which you have to remember? The modified form of this objective resolution, it forms the present day preamble of Indian Constitution. Okay. So next important topic is salient features which were borrowed from different constitution. So this is the table from Lakshmikant which tells us the features which were borrowed from different constitutions. right? Again, these contents, it's pretty tough to remember. So let's use small trick so that we can retain information for long time. So we have Government of India Act 1935, British Constitution, US Constitution, Irish, Canadian, Australian, Germany, Russia, French, South Africa and Japanese, right? So we'll use small trick. So first one, whenever Government of India Act 1935 comes, so remember this small story, okay? So we are preparing for UPSC to work for Government of India. So most of us want to become IAS. So after cracking UPSC, we go to IAS Academy in Mussoorie. So Mussoorie is a beautiful place. It's filled with fog. So especially when a South Indian or from people from different places, they go to Mussoorie, they'll be happy to see this fog-like conditions and they jump with joy. And since fog-like condition, the visibility will be low. So if you jump here and there, obviously you will land into emergency. So how we relate it with the features. So first one, Government of India Act 1935, it relates to UPSC. So it has a provision with respect to Public Service Commission. Next, FOG, F for Federal Scheme, OG for Office of Governor. So you can see federal scheme we have Office of Governor, and then JUMP, JU for Judiciary Emergency Provisions. So these are the features which are under Government of India Act 1935. So second one is British Constitution. So whenever we talk about British, we know that East India Company or British colonized India. So know that British exploited Indian citizens, British made rules and laws in India, British built Parliament building, and it was a good Parliament building with 2 cabins, one upper house, lower house, and they enjoyed all the privileges. So whenever British Constitution, remember British India Times, so British exploited Indian citizens. How? By making rules and laws. British enjoyed all the privileges. How? By building a good parliament with upper house and lower house. Okay. So how we relate with the features? So British built parliament. So parliamentary government. British made rules and laws. So rule of law. So from British Constitution, we borrowed single citizenship. So here citizens, right? Bicameralism. So I told you, right? To upper house and lower house and parliamentary privileges. So some of these features are borrowed from British Constitution. So next, try to know US Constitution. So US means as soon as we remember US, we remember 2 things. One, US or Las Vegas, where there is full of freedom, independence and rights to everyone, right? So people go to US so that they can enjoy all this freedom. So no freedom, rights to everyone. Next, US means it's a powerful country. So they don't mind to remove Supreme Court, High Court judges, even president, even vice president, they don't care. Okay. So remember this. So with that we can relate with the US Constitution. So US guarantees fundamental right, independence of judiciary, judicial review, impeachment of president, removal of Supreme Court and High Court judges, post of vice president. So fundamental rights we enjoy, independence, right? So judicial review, I hope you can remember, and rest of the things. So they can remove Supreme Court, High Court judges, impeachment of president, vice president, all these features they were borrowed from US. Next, Ireland. So know about Ireland. Ireland is most peaceful country. So why they are peaceful? Because they follow certain principles in life. So remember DPSP. Okay. So DPSP in our constitution, it was borrowed from Ireland, and Ireland, they are peaceful because they respect elders in the house. Who are the elders? They are the Rajya Sabha. So they nomination of seats to Rajya Sabha members. Okay, so this particular feature we borrowed from Irish. So you can see here DPSP and nomination of members of Rajya Sabha. And also there is one more, election of president. Okay, anyway, try to remember this one. You can easily retain maximum stuff. Next, Germany. So whenever we think of Germany, we remember Hitler times. Whenever they talk about the Germany constitution, just know that Hitler killed Jews and all the fundamental rights were suspended. So next we'll try to understand Japanese. So whenever we think of Japanese people, we know that they are very hardworking and they are very much disciplined. So why they are disciplined? Because they follow certain procedure. They follow procedure established by law and they don't break the rules. They follow the procedures sincerely. So remember, procedure means procedure established by law. So next, Canada. So Canadian Constitution, Canada means C for Canada, C for center. So remember C for center. So if in case in question paper you find options which with strong center, residuary power to center, appointment of governors by the center, so anything by the center or center, just mark it for Canadian Constitution. So next one, Australia. So we know that India and Australia, they have poor ties. Matlab, there is good potential to increase the ties. So we know that Australia wanted to join Quad from long time, right? So how did it happen? Because we jointly sat together and we discussed. So that's the reason we can increase trade and commerce. So we can remember certain features like joint sitting, trade and commerce and intercourse. Okay, all such features, they are borrowed from Australia. So next, France. So it's easy. Ideals of liberty, equality and fraternity, which is in our preamble, they were borrowed from France. And Russia, remember fundamental duties and ideals of justice in preamble. And South Africa, if you remember South Africa, we remember Nelson Mandela. So Nelson Mandela was a very elder member. So just know that it is talking about election of members of Rajya Sabha, and there is also amendment of constitution. So the procedure for amending the constitution, it was borrowed from South Africa. So these are some of the important features which you can remember through these tricks. So next, this session's last topic, that is schedules of the constitution. Again, every time there is question from schedules. So very often there are questions which have been asked from this particular topic. So different schedules, say 5th schedule, 6th schedule, right? Even there was a question on 9th schedule recently during 2018 or 19 paper. Okay. So schedules of the constitution is important. So again, you have to remember all these content. Small trick can be used again for the first 4 schedules. Okay. So the first schedule talks about names of state and names of union territories. Second is talking about salary and allowances. Third, talking about oath and affirmation. Fourth, talking about allocation and seats in the Rajya Sabha. So imagine how our Indian parents search for a bride or groom. So first thing what they ask is, what is the name of the bride or groom? What salary and allowance he or she gets? Will he or she take an oath to look after the family well? If yes, then bride or groom confirmed. So allocate a seat, okay, in our family. So this is how Indian parents thought process is, right? So first they ask what is the name of the bride or groom, what is the salary and allowance he or she is taking, whether that person agrees or affirms or takes the oath to look after the family well. So then allocate a seat for him in the family. So you can remember the first 4 schedules easily. 5th and 6th schedule, very important. Okay. So 5th schedule deals with schedule, area and tribes. So you have to remember this. So scheduled areas and tribes, 5th schedule, and 6th schedule deals with tribal areas. So you have to remember these 2 important differences. So 5th and 6th schedule is important for both prelims and mains, because recently Arunachal Pradesh, it was seeking 6th schedule from the center. So here know that 6th schedule majorly deals with Northeast India, whereas the 5th schedule usually deals with scheduled areas in the mainland India. So next 7th schedule, know the division of powers, that is unionless, stateless, concurrentless. So as soon as we remember 7, so 7 means James Bond, not 7. So not 7. So center is bond in the unionless, state is bond in the stateless. And in concurrent list, again, both center and state, they both are bond, but usually union is more powerful. So next 8th schedule, again very important this year. So this year 5th and 6th schedule is important. 7th schedule is also important because recently 15th Finance Commission Chairman N.K. Singh, he had given the statement that there is a need to review the subjects which have been divided under union list, state list and concurrent list. And already I have shared that union list, state list, concurrent list, it was also we saw in Government of India Act 1935. Okay. So next important schedule is 8th schedule, which is dealing with languages. In current affairs, we had a lot of articles which were dealing with language issue. So the current BJP government was in controversy and debate because of one nation, one language, and also national education policy. So there was debate and discussion regarding making Hindi as common language, or one language, or one nation, one language. That's the reason. Okay, so try to know some of the important content here. Next, 9th schedule. So 9th schedule, it deals with certain acts and regulations dealing with the land reforms and abolition of the zamindari system. And initially 9th schedule intended to protect the laws which were added to 9th schedule from judicial scrutiny, but right now Supreme Court ruled that such laws included in this schedule are now open to judicial review. Okay, so remember this, there was a question already which UPSC asked on this. Next, 10th schedule, so it deals with the anti-defection, that is disqualification on the grounds of defection. And finally 11th and 12th schedule, they are important. 11 deals with the provisions of Panchayati Raj, 12 deals with the provision of municipal corporation. So do revise all these things. Okay, so you people can connect with IS Baba either through hotline number or through phone a friend. Okay, or even if you have any queries and other things, you can comment with the hashtag Ask Baba either in YouTube section or website section or in Telegram. So these are the important topics in today's session. We'll meet soon in the next session. Thank you.